Hi, welcome to Teen Takeout Crafts. This month we're going to be making a simple macrame hanger with a succulent inside. So this is our final project. I'll show you what that looks like. So pretty easy. Let's get started. First step is to get your jar, succulent, and pebbles out of your craft kit. The jar is a really fun addition. It is actually a wee yogurt container. Some of you may have tried the wee yogurt. They sell it here in town. But the jar is just the perfect size for a lot of different craft options. They have some wonderful ideas on their website. So if you like yogurt, you might give it a try. So let's get started. First step is to take your bag of pebbles. Open those up and just gently pour them into the glass container. It should be about the right amount to fill it to the top. Kind of shake that around a little bit so the pebbles settle. Get in there nice and firm. And then take your succulent, which we bought at Hobby Lobby, and just kind of wedge it in there. You might jiggle a little bit side to side to make it fit the way you like it. And there you have your succulent in your pebble container. The next part of our project requires our roll of jute twine. You'll need your hanger and a pair of scissors for this. You will want to unwrap your jute twine and the ribbon. We aren't going to need that. You can put that off to the side. You should have two ends with your twine, and when the staff was bundling your twine, they did put a little loose knot at the end of the string just so it wouldn't unravel. So you can gently take those knots out, just kind of untie them a little bit. Jute is kind of a messy string or twine. It will leave little shreds of fabric or pieces everywhere. So just know that your calendar is going to get a little bit messy when you're doing this project. So here I have my two ends. I'm going to match them up, and we are going to pull the jute out and measure it so we can cut it in half. We did include a little bit of instructions in the packet as well, just in case you are more of a person that likes to learn off of a piece of paper versus visual. So we have a little bit of both here. So again, we're going to take that jute twine, match those two ends up, and unroll and unroll and unroll. And keep it kind of matched up together until you get all the way to the other end. And here you'll see that I have a loop, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that, the end, with my scissors. So now I have two strings. We want to end up with four. So now I need to find the ends of my twine again, match all four ends up, and pull the string all the way across until you have a loop at the other end, and cut that. And now we have four pieces in pretty much equal length. So our next step is to attach the jute string to our ring. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and fold this in half so we really have 8 ends together where it makes a loop at the top. You can do this one of two ways. You can actually slide your loop through the 4 strings and tie it in a regular knot, but I kind of like the looks of the approach that I'm going to show you. So make a loop at the end, take your ring, slide it over, and then you're going to take all your tails and slide it through so your string, jute string, starts to attach to the top. Now, this isn't, because this is thick, it's not going to make a very tight knot. So you're going to have to work at that just a little bit. So kind of pull, use those muscles, pull and cinch, and then it's sometimes a little easier, I think, to go through and pull each of these individual strings tight. So go ahead and do that. Get that good and tight on there and work at it. And then you have a nice looking knot at the end, which will be the beginnings of your planter. I like using the rings, like I said. It's just a little bit easier to hang up your finished project if you're interested in doing that. So now we have this look to our project. All right, after you put your string onto the loop, the next step is to lay your projects down on the table in front of you, and you're going to want to separate your jute string into 4 sections. And I suggest keeping the sections that are a little bit closer together. So separate into 4 groups of 2. And again, this is on your little paper that we sent along as well, in case that's more helpful for you. So after you have that separated into 4 groups of 2 strings, you're going to measure down about a foot, and you are going to grab both strings, make sure they're pretty tight together, and tie a knot through there. Pull it through, and nice and tight. So there's knot number 1. The reason you want to keep them pretty close together and tight is so you don't have a little baggy spot in there. So this is probably going to be the hardest part of the whole project, but again, not very difficult. So then you're going to want to do the same thing on the next set of strings. You want that knot to be in the same spot. So measure with your finger, tie a knot. And then after we get that knot tied, before we tighten it too much, we do want to kind of measure a little bit and hope that we have it in a similar place. So I kind of measure this way, and that looks pretty good. And then tighten. I think we're looking okay. So you're going to do the same thing with the next 2 groups of strings. So some easy little knots. Put it on kind of loose. Measure, and you can see on this one I'm a little bit lower, so since it's loose I want to try and scooch my knot up a little bit, maybe a little bit more. If it's not exact, it's okay, but it's helpful to have it as close as possible. And that looks good, so I'm going to make it tight, and then I'm going to do the last one. Again, all your supplies you can find at Hobby Lobby, Walmart, places in Kearney. Pretty easy to locate. Okay, so now I've got 4 strands. That one's just a little bit lower, but it's going to be fine. The next step is basically doing the same thing, but we're going to join the side-by-side strings. So take the first 2, you're going to separate and separate. And this time, instead of going down about a foot, we're going to go down about 3 inches. So I'm going to grab these adjoining strings. So it's going to look, actually I might just do this one because it looks like that one wants to be closer. So we're going to go about here and do the same thing. So tie a knot. We're making the little basket for the succulent to sit in. And again, this is just pretty basic macrame, not anything very complicated. You're going to do the same thing with the next set. You're going to kind of keep it measured so you're going in about the same location. Tie those together. And there's your knot. And do the same thing over here. There's all kinds of fun things you can make with macrame. Right now, macrame earrings are super popular. You can make planters, other wall hangings that are just really beautiful. Okay, and then the last one, we have to join these 2 over here. So I'm going to kind of flop this over to the side and go down with this one. That just seems a little easier for me. You can do it however you wish. Okay, so now we have all of our strings. One of them, it looks like I do need to adjust a little bit. Now the last step is to make a big knot at the bottom. Remember, we had that tassel, and so this is going to be a huge knot to try and tie. So take that and grab all those strings and get it through. This is going to be the bottom of your basket that your succulent is sitting on, and pull that knot up and tight. And do you remember at the top when we were working on our top knot how we pulled individual strings through? You're going to go through and pull each of these until that is just as tight as it can be. You don't want your succulent falling out on the ground. Now you're going to have different lengths, and that is just fine, because when you are all done, you can either trim those up or you can leave them this way. I kind of like them trimmed up a little bit. And then, as we talked about earlier when we were looking at the project, you can either leave it this way or you can unfray this and make it kind of a rougher edge. So that is the knotting process, friends, and you're good to go. Well, great. You did a fantastic job making your knots. Again, this is just a simple approach to macrame. If you enjoyed this little project, there is a lot of different options on Pinterest. We have books at the library about beginning macrame. So much you can do, so many things you can make. But now that you've finished your hanger, your next step is to take your succulent that we had placed off to the side, and you're just going to kind of put it in the bottom of this. It's kind of like a little basket, and so it takes a little finagling, but you just kind of wedge it in there, and those knots should just kind of keep it secure, and you might kind of adjust side to side. And there is your finished project, friends. Now you can also, I have just the regular strings down here at the bottom. You can unravel those and kind of shred them and make it a little more frayed on the bottom, which is also a really nice look. But here is your finished macrame hanging succulent made out of a wee yogurt container. So again, all these supplies can be found locally at stores here in Kearney. Simple, not really expensive at all, and lots of fun. Kind of cute little gifts for your friends. So thank you for tuning in today. Please join us next month. We have another teen takeout craft coming up, and we'd love to have you join us. Check out our webpage for all the events coming up for youth, teens, and adults. Lots of things coming, and then we'll have a whole nother batch of programs coming up this spring as well. So I hope you all have a great day and happy crafting.